It is my joy to introduce Phillip Carson, DPh, who is a registered pharmacist and doctor of pharmacy with licenses in MS and TN, is a 1985 graduate of the University of MS School of Pharmacy. Since earning his degree in pharmacy, Phil has been certified as a compounding pharmacist, a diabetes care pharmacist, and most recently a consulting pharmacist. He has earned certifications in lipid management and gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD. He has earned numerous certifications in natural and alternative medicine therapies for weight loss, fibromyalgia, ADD, ADHD, and many more. He is president of Carson Natural Health, LLC, as a pharmacist who thinks outside of the box using traditional medicine. He believes in helping people find natural alternatives and integrative medicine solutions for healthcare. Please go to the mic for your questions so we can hear you, and please welcome Phillip Carson.
All right. Thank you so much. Before I get started today, you see this information up here where you can contact me if you'd like to. My web address is carsonnatural.com. You can add /LiveAware to that web address, and you can get a copy of my slides if you would like those. That's absolutely free copy there. You can just go to that site anytime, carsonnatural.com, LiveAware, and get those slides there. All right? Well, one of the things that's not in my bio that she mentioned there is that I'm also now the co-founder of Life Transformation Medical Center. I don't practice pharmacy behind the counter anymore. I've gotten out from behind the counter, and I'm working in a clinical setting with a doctor friend of mine. She's an MD who practices functional medicine, and we work together with doing wellness programs in our clinic for people, so I'm getting to do the things that I really love to do. 20 years ago, I started moving more into the natural realm of practice, and that's what I do now, and working with people holistically, naturally, trying to get them to live healthier lifestyles. And I'm loving it, I'm enjoying it, and that's what I do. My message is that we don't need another drug. For years, I was behind the counter dispensing those drugs. But we don't need another drug, especially when it comes to our immune system. But we do need a strong and healthy immune system. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. There's a great quote that I love. This quote was from over 100 years ago from Thomas Edison. Everybody knows who Thomas Edison is. The father of the light bulb and all kinds of other inventions that Thomas Edison came up with. But he said over 100 years ago that the doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human body, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease. I love this quote. I don't know if you have a doctor of the future or not, but I'd highly recommend you try to find one if you don't. One that will interest you in the care of your body and diet and the cause of prevention. And that's what we do in our clinic at Life Transformation Wellness. We're doing that. That's what I do at Carson Natural Health, and coaching and counseling with patients on a regular basis. That's what I want to see. I want to be that doctor of the future. And I want to see more doctors, more clinicians becoming that doctor of the future as well. You know, one of the problems with drugs, and I've seen this in my profession over the years, and this is something that was put out by Harvard University, their Center for Ethics. And it says new prescription drugs are a major health risk with few offsetting advantages. You know, if any of you watch TV, you see drugs being advertised all the time. I mean, the drug companies are paying for the news to be produced. Most all of your commercials, the majority of commercials you see on the news, if you watch it, you're going to see drug commercials from drug companies about all these different drugs. But few people know, as you see stated here, that new prescription drugs have a 1 in 5 chance of causing serious reactions after they've been approved. After. And thankfully, there's some progressive physicians out there that are realizing this, and they're doing something about it, and they're recommending that their patients not take new drugs, at least give them some time. Now, how many of you also on those commercials you see on TV, right after the drug commercials, you see a commercial from a lawyer, trying to entice you to call them to sue the drug company. So it's a problem. We got a major problem in our country with drugs and drug abuse, and it's something that needs to change. And hopefully there'll be more and more doctors, more and more clinicians getting on board with this message and working toward changing that. Another great quote that I love to share with people is from Dr. Royal Lee. Dr. Royal Lee started the Standard Process Company in the late 1920s. Company's still around, producing wonderful products. But he said one of the biggest tragedies of human civilization is the precedence of chemical therapy over nutrition. It's a substitution of artificial therapy over nature, of poisons over food, in which we are feeding people poisons trying to correct the reactions of starvation. There are so many people that are starving today. Not starving for food, but they're starving for nutrients. And I see that in my practice all the time. They are starving. They are nutritionally deficient. And what are they getting when they go to the doctor? They're getting a prescription for a drug instead of a recommendation for nutrients, or instead of lifestyle change. They're getting a prescription for a drug. And most people, sadly, that's what they want. They want a quick fix. But that's not the answer. Let me ask you, are you starving? There's so many people that are. Now, I hope that you're not starving for a bowl of alphabet soup. And I hope you don't eat this stuff. Maybe you did as a kid, like a lot of kids do, and I may have had a bowl when I was a kid. I don't remember. But not much nutritional value in a bowl of alphabet soup. But I do want to serve you an alphabet soup today, but not this kind. I want to serve you this kind of alphabet soup. Vitamins A, B, C, D, E, the minerals zinc, and probiotics. I'm going to touch on some of these today and talk about some of these. Not all of them, but the ones that I think are most important for the immune system. And all of these are important for the immune system. But some of these are more important than others, I think, and play a vital role in us having a healthy immune system and keeping it strong and healthy. There's a quote put out from the Rockefeller Institute, now known as the Rockefeller University. And it says that the doctors of the day do not become the nutritionists of tomorrow, then the nutritionists of today will become the doctors of tomorrow. I want you to learn to be your own nutritionist. I think we all need to be. And I feel like a lot of people here at this conference are. They're aware. And that's what this is all about, live aware. And they're aware of nutritional value of foods. But you need to become your own nutritionist and your own doctor. You know your body better than anybody else, and you need to take care of it. And you can do that better than anybody else. Not saying that you don't need a doctor, that you don't need a nutritionist. You should seek advice from people. You should learn from other people that maybe know more about things than you do. But take what you learn and put it into action and become your own nutritionist and your own doctor in control of your life and your health. And more people need to do that. Now, nutrient supplementation with all those letters of the alphabet that you saw a moment ago should come from our foods that we eat. Foods rich in nutrients we should be consuming on a regular basis. Now, the problem we have in this country today is that we're not eating foods that are rich in nutrients. A lot of them have no nutritional value at all. A lot of the foods that people are eating today are what's considered new foods that didn't exist 50 or 60 years ago. We should be eating foods like you see on this slide here. Raw foods, healthy foods, fresh foods. There's where the nutrition comes from. Those foods usually, I'm saying usually, not always, are loaded with all kinds of nutrients. Now, one of the problems there when I say usually is that if these foods you're buying in the grocery store sometimes, maybe they've been grown on a big farming operation where the soils have been depleted. There's no nutritional value to them. And Tufts University in Boston has even done tests. They've gone in and they've bought foods and they've taken them into the lab and studied them, analyzed them, and found to be a lot of them have very little or no nutritional value. Foods like you see on the screen that are supposed to have nutritional value, but they don't. And that's the problem. Now, y'all probably have already figured out that I'm not from California from my accent. I'm from the deep south. I live in a small town right outside of Tupelo, Mississippi. And if you haven't heard of Tupelo, you probably have. You just don't remember it because it's the birthplace of the most famous individual who's lived during our lifetime. And he goes by one name usually, and that's Elvis. And a lot of people know that, a lot of people don't. But anyway, it's a small community, there's a lot of agriculture there. But we have grocery stores, and they bring in produce from where? From California. But I don't know about fresh produce out here if it compares to what it tastes like when it gets to Mississippi. But I'm going to tell you, when it gets to Mississippi, it doesn't taste like produce. It doesn't have any taste to it at all. I can go into the grocery store and buy peaches, but they don't taste like peaches. They come from California. I hope all of you who live here in California that you get better tasting peaches than we do in Mississippi. Now, if I can find some local grown, they taste like peaches. So hopefully your local grown will taste better to you. But anyway, you need nutrients. We need to get it from food. But we often don't get it from food. So what do we have to do? We have to supplement. If we can't get it from the foods, then we have to supplement. So I'm going to touch on the supplements today that I think are extremely important, as I said, for our immune system. Vitamin C is one of the top ones. How many of you here, with show of hands, take vitamin C on a regular basis? Anybody? Okay, I see a few hands. How many of you take vitamin C more than once a day? If you're taking regular vitamin C, this is something you need to know. If you're taking regular vitamin C for your immune system, if you take a vitamin C in the morning, by noon, it's gone. Your body has used it up. It's a water-soluble vitamin, and your body utilizes it quickly, and you need to put more back in. Either in the form of a supplement, if you're not eating some type of food that's rich in vitamin C, but I recommend you eat the foods like you see on the screen here that are rich in vitamin C. That's what you need to be doing. But if you need a supplement, then you need to take it several times a day to get the adequate, unless you're taking what's called a long-acting or a vitamin C that has a longer half-life and stays in your body longer. But one thing I want to point out, too, about vitamin C, and I'm not going to go into vitamin C deep today. I'm going to save that for Dr. Humphreys. She'll be giving the keynote, the closing keynote this afternoon. And I encourage you to go to that and listen to what she has to say about vitamin C. But some key things I want to point out here that most people may not know about vitamin C is that, one, that you have to take it several times a day to keep a constant level in your body. But what most people take is what's called ascorbic acid. It's not true vitamin C. It's just a component of vitamin C. The vitamin C you get from these foods is more of what's called a complex vitamin C. It's the whole vitamin C molecule, not a part of it, as ascorbic acid is. So if you are going to have to take a supplement, look for one that is a vitamin C complex and not isolated ascorbic acid, and you'll get better results. The company I mentioned a moment ago that Dr. Royal Lee started, Standard Process, is a company that makes one of those complexes. And you can find some others out there, but I'd highly recommend you do a C complex and not the ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid has its place in medicine, and there's a lot of good research out there showing that it can do some wonderful things. And it's even being used in some cancer treatments in some areas, I've been told. But for taking it on a regular basis for your immune system, look for the complex is what I recommend that you do. Here's a few things that I want you to see about vitamin C deficiency, some symptoms associated with it. You know, there's not a lot of people today that are suffering from vitamin C deficiency. Because it's plentiful in the foods that we eat, or we should be eating on a regular basis. But if you do have a deficiency, here's some problems you could be experiencing. The ones I want to point out is the ones you see here in black: the weakened immune system, digestive disorders like leaky gut and autoimmune disease. So keeping our vitamin C level up in our bodies and with the vitamin C complex and with the foods can help protect us and protect our immune system. So keep that in mind with vitamin C, and that's all I'm going to say about vitamin C. This is the big one here, vitamin D. I love talking about vitamin D. And you see the picture here, the foods that are rich in vitamin D. My favorites there are the eggs and the fish, and I do like mushrooms and beans as well. The dairy I'm not a big fan of, because that's not a big fan of me either. But if you can get good dairy, whole dairy, unprocessed, then you can get some good vitamin D from that. But I prefer to stick with the other foods that you see there. And so you can get vitamin D, small amounts from plants. You can get small amounts from proteins like the fish and the eggs. But that's not the best way to get vitamin D. There's a much better way than getting it through our food. Vitamin D is one vitamin that our bodies can produce. Bodies can't produce vitamin C or vitamin E and a multitude of other vitamins, or the B vitamins. We can produce vitamin D. Our bodies manufacture vitamin D. But it has to have something to be able to do that. Y'all know what that is. The speaker before me talked a little bit about it. You got to have sunshine. Sunshine. We need sunshine. If we want vitamin D, then we got to have sunshine. Now you see all these studies and you hear people talking about, oh, you better stay out of the sun, you better wear sunscreen, you don't want to get cancer. Well, that's not going to happen to most people with moderate sun exposure. And I say moderate. If you do stay out too long, it can cause you problems. But moderate is 20 to 30 minutes of sunshine a day, exposing your skin to the sun. Now, I say one of the best ways is to do that. There's a better time. There's a optimal time also to get that exposure, and that's during the noonday hours. So here's what I recommend that you do if you want to get the best vitamin D levels. The best optimal vitamin D is right here. Eat lunch naked. Now, is anybody practicing that now? No. Now, where I live out in the country. I live way away from the city, and I can do this. But if you live in the city, I don't recommend you do this. Now, there may be some places out here in California where you can do that and get away with it. You know, where I live, I could do it and get away with it if I'm at home. Now, I'm not going to do it if I'm working at the clinic, of course. But you don't have to be naked. But you do need to expose as much of your skin to the sun as you can. If you work inside, start taking your lunch break outside. especially on a beautiful day like we got today. Isn't it gorgeous out there today? The sunshine, I love it. And just getting out in nature and connecting with nature, it does wonders for your immune system as well. But get out and get that sun exposure. Start taking your lunch break outside. If you get other breaks during the day, go outside, walk around for a little while. Let that sun beam on you and warm you up and produce that vitamin D. Vitamin D is so important. And a lot of people don't think about vitamin D being important for the immune system. You know, think about this. It's good for your bones. It's good for your nervous system. It's called the happy vitamin. And, you know, that's why I say eat lunch naked. I mean, get happy. But there are so many other benefits. There's a long list of benefits of vitamin D. But the immune system is something that often doesn't get looked at or talked about when it comes to vitamin D. There have been some recent studies done with vitamin D showing that it is very important for the immune system. There's also a recent study done at Georgetown University showing the importance of sunlight in our immune system. Not with the production of vitamin D, but just sunlight, sun exposure. In this study, they had the participants in the study to get out and get sun exposure, and they measured their T levels. The thymus gland produces these T cells that are killer cells. They're part of our immune system. The thymus gland is a tiny little gland right here in your chest wall that is known as the master gland of the immune system. Well, sunlight, what it does is that it mobilizes those T cells. It helps them move around in the body. So the T cells have to move. When we are attacked with some kind of invader, some type of infection, then those T cells go to work and they protect us. They attack. They try to stop that invasion. I mean, stop what that invader is trying to do as far as making us sick. We need adequate T cells, but we need them to be able to move. And the sunlight in this study showed that it dramatically increased the movement of those cells, therefore helping fight infection more efficiently. So there you go. There's another benefit of just getting sun other than vitamin D. But with vitamin D, the study that was recently done at Sahlgrenska University in Sweden, they took 140 patients that were having problems with chronic infections, respiratory infections. And they started giving them 4,000 units of vitamin D every day during this study. They followed them for a whole year, giving them vitamin D or placebo. They didn't know what they were getting. Well, the vitamin D group improved dramatically. They had much less problem, much less infections, and they require 63% less antibiotics during the study than the placebo group. 63% less. That's huge, y'all. Huge. And that was just by adding vitamin D, 4,000 units a day. So, speaking of that, how much vitamin D should you take? Does anybody know? It varies, depending on your levels of vitamin D. How many of you in here, with show of hands, have had your vitamin D checked in the last year? Okay, a few of you. How many have never had it checked, period, that you know of? Okay? Well, I highly recommend you do. When patients come to see me and they're presenting with all kinds of health issues, that's one of the required tests that we do. I request that they get a vitamin D level. And 9 times out of 10, it's low. Sometimes it is severely low. So how do you know? How do you know how much vitamin D you should have? The Vitamin D Council states, and if you ever looked at your labs, you'll see that there's a range of 30 to 100. That is what's called the clinical range for vitamin D, 30 to 100. Now, I see people all the time that they're in that range, but they're barely in that range. They may be 30, 31, 32, 33, but that's not good enough. That's considered within the average normal range. Now, if you have a vitamin D level done and your doctor looks at your lab results and he sees that you're 32, he's going to say, oh, you're fine, you don't need vitamin D, don't worry about it. Well, I don't agree with that. I think your level should be optimal. For optimal health, you should have optimal vitamin D levels. For optimal defense against invaders and helping you keep your immune system strong and healthy, you need optimal levels. Optimal levels are between 50 and 80. So if you have your levels checked and you're not somewhere between 50 and 80, then you need vitamin D. What do you take? I would talk to your clinician about that and ask them what they recommend for you. And there are all kinds of vitamin D supplements you can take if you're not getting enough sun exposure. For most people, I recommend anywhere from 2,000 to 10,000 units a day, depending on what their levels are. And keep in mind with vitamin D now, it is a fat-soluble vitamin. Vitamin C, I mentioned a moment ago, is a water-soluble vitamin. It's used and excreted rapidly. Not the case with vitamin D. So you can overload on vitamin D. And so that's why I recommend either way, too low, too high, you need to have your vitamin D levels checked on a regular basis, and you need to be keeping them in the optimal range. And I have seen many, many patients over the years, health improve dramatically just by increasing their vitamin D levels because it performs so many functions in the body. And but the immune system, it's vital. It's extremely important, and studies are showing that, as I showed you. One other thing I want to point out vitamin D before I go on to the next one is vitamin D deficiency has been associated with these autoimmune diseases you see here. So if you know someone that has an autoimmune disease that's suffering, recommend to them, go tell them, hey, if you haven't had your vitamin D level checked, go get it checked. Because I've seen multiple sclerosis patients improve just by getting their vitamin D levels up. It does make a difference. So that's another good reason for you to check your vitamin D and to keep it at an optimal level to help protect you against these potential autoimmune diseases that are out there. All right, we're going to move on to zinc, the Z, the last letter in the alphabet. How many of you have had your zinc levels checked? That's what I thought. Nobody. Most people don't. Most people don't even know what zinc is, don't know that they need zinc, don't realize the importance of zinc. But zinc is an essential mineral. Our bodies have to have it. It performs all kinds of functions as well, like vitamin D. You see the food sources on the screen here, some of the best food sources for for zinc. One of the best ones is pumpkin seeds. And it's a great source of zinc. But there's several others you see on the mushrooms, the avocados, the leafy greens. These are all things that are wonderful foods for us to eat. Nuts are rich in zinc as well, and some of the proteins that you see there as well. But zinc is very, very important for our immune system. We have to have it. I'll tell you a quick story about zinc. This past winter, I got the worst respiratory infection that I've ever had in my life. And it was about 3 or 4 weeks later, after I got over it, I got sick again. And I said, what is wrong? I don't get sick. I don't have these kind of infections. But this stuff was horrible. And I got to thinking about it. Something's not right. Something's got to be out of balance here. So I checked my zinc level. It was low. And I said, this is it. This is the problem. I got to get my zinc built back up. I've let it get low. Well, I did. and it's made a difference. And I know this winter I'm going to make sure that my zinc level's up where it needs to be to help fight off the colds, the infections that are roaming around out there trying to attack us all. But zinc is so important, and I highly recommend you get it checked. There's different ways to check zinc. One way is by having the blood test like you do with vitamin D. And there's two different types of blood tests available for zinc. One is called a plasma zinc, where they check it from the plasma. Your range on that should be between 0.6 and 1.2. If you get your lab results and you look at them, and that's what you want to do, I highly recommend anytime you have lab work done, ask for a copy of it. If your doctor is not a functional medicine type doctor that really looks over those labs thoroughly and looks for high and low ranges, making sure you're in the optimal range, then you get your lab results and you talk to somebody that can help you determine what's optimal and what's not. But look at your zinc and see if you're in that range with plasma. There's another one called red blood cell zinc levels. That one is probably a little more accurate as to what is actually in the tissues in your body. And it's called an RBC zinc. The range on that usually is from around 800 to 1600. You'll see the values on those results if you request a zinc RBC. The other way for testing your zinc is real simple. You can do it at home with a taste test. You can get concentrated zinc. It's a liquid concentrate. Standard Process makes one. There's other companies that make it as well. And you just put a teaspoon or whatever the bottle recommends, half teaspoon, small amount of zinc on your tongue. Hold it in your mouth. If you immediately spit it out, because it's going to taste horrible. I mean, you're going to want to spit it out. If you want to get it out of your mouth as quickly as you can. If that happens, then your zinc levels are adequate. You don't need zinc. If you hold it in your mouth and you're sitting there waiting on that taste and to get that response, and you finally, after a little while, get a little bit of a response, you taste a little something, that usually means your zinc is low. Not severely low, but it's low. You have a delayed response to the taste. If you hold it in your mouth and it tastes like water and you never get any response, then you're pretty bad low. That's a zinc taste test. And I would say it's just going to be pretty right spot on with any blood test that you have done. So keep that in mind with zinc, and I'd highly recommend that you get it checked. Here is a list of symptoms that are associated with zinc deficiency. And I see people suffering from a lot of these, and I've worked with a few patients recently that have had this problem right here. Loss of smell or taste. Definite zinc deficiency problem. But as you see right here, weak immunity. We've got to have zinc to keep our immune system strong and healthy. So keep the zinc going. If you're suffering, or you know people that are from any of these things, I would highly recommend getting that zinc level checked. It may be a contributing factor, it may not be, but it would be worth finding out, that's for sure. Now I mentioned, supplements a minute ago. We can't always get what we need from our foods, and if we have a major deficiency, then the food usually is not going to provide us with enough unless we're eating a lot of those foods. And that's kind of hard to do sometimes. To eat a pound or 2 pounds of spinach a day to get all the zinc that you need. That's not going to happen with most people. So what do? There's supplements available. But there's a vast difference in supplements out there. Vast difference. I want you to know that you should be looking for the right kind of supplements when you're looking for supplements. Synthetic versus food source, artificial versus natural is what I call it. You see a Standard Process product here. This is a multivitamin called Catalin. You see the one next to it here. This is a picture of just a generic multivitamin out there. Now, a lot of people that come see me, that's what they're taking. Something like this generic one you see right here. This is what I call artificial, synthetic. It's not real. Made from chemicals. Now, you know, we're here to learn how we can avoid toxins and chemicals. Well, I can tell you right now, if you're taking a generic multivitamin or even some of the name brand multivitamins out there, the so-called one-a-day multivitamins, then you're taking something that's synthetic, something that's artificial, and maybe causing more harm than good to you. Most of these vitamins are loaded with all kinds of artificial ingredients, artificial sweeteners, artificial dyes, and fillers and binders, just junk. I call them junk vitamins. And I tell people all the time, if you're taking one of these, go find you a pile of rocks somewhere. Pick up the rocks, keep them in your pocket, and just swallow one of those every day. You'd be better off than taking one of these things. Yeah. And you would probably get more nutritional value out of that rock than you would out of one of these types of multivitamins. So I encourage people, when you have to take a supplement, look for food source. Look for ones that are primarily made from food. Standard Process is one of those companies. Garden of Life is one of those companies. And there's several others out there. There's not as many of those as there are these other companies that produce this junk. But they're food sources. You may pay a little bit more for it, but you're going to get something for your money. When you buy one of these, you're just throwing your money away. So look for the food source, and it's going to make a big, big difference. Our bodies were designed to get our nutrients from food, as we've been talking about. But when we can't, we got to have a supplement, then look for a food source supplement. Your body is going to recognize it as food, and it's going to utilize it, absorb it. It's going to work. Whereas these others are chemicals, and it's going to pass right through you most of the time. You're not going to get anything. One other thing I want to point out about these too, and you know, I teach people all the time, and encourage people, read the labels. Look and see what's on those labels. Well, these companies have gotten deceptive. And so I want you to know about this, because a lot of people don't realize this. A lot of these companies that make these kind of vitamins here, used to, I'd pick up one of these in the store, because I love to read labels and see what's in stuff, and see what these companies are doing to people. And so I'd pick them up, and they would have all the vitamin content, all the, ascorbic acid, thiamine, riboflavin, all these things listed on there. And then at the bottom, they would have other ingredients. And that's where they would put the FD&C blue, the FD&C yellow, the aspartame, or the sugar alcohols, or the titanium dioxide, all of these harmful ingredients. They would be listed as other ingredients. Well, they've gotten smart, or they think they have. And they started mixing those names in with all the other ingredients, the so-called good ingredients, which are not so good, and putting it in, and kind of just, you'll see a few vitamins listed, and you'll see FD&C. And then you'll see a few more vitamins listed, and you'll see aspartame. So they're trying to deceive people, and taking it and mixing it all in where people don't notice it. So be aware. Be aware. Live aware. That's what we want to do. All right. Let's move on to a few other things outside of nutrition, outside of the vitamins and the minerals, the alphabet. Probiotics. Probiotics are essential for a healthy immune system. 60% or so of our immune system is around the gut. So why is that? It's those microflora, the good bacteria that live within our guts. Here at this conference, I found out about a new probiotic product that looks really, really good to me. And I haven't read the research yet, but this product out here called Thrive looks like a fantastic product when it comes to probiotics. And there's a lot of good probiotics out there. But this one seems to be one where the research has been done and it's going to be far superior to what other things out there. But we can get probiotics in our food, fermented foods. How many of you eat fermented foods on a regular basis? Yeah, awesome. One of my favorite is sauerkraut. And I don't eat it as often as I should, but when I do eat it, I love it. Fermented cabbage. But there's a lot of fermented foods out there. One of my favorite, as far as a drink, is the kombucha. How many of you drink kombucha on a regular basis? Yeah. Kombucha is a fermented tea. And that's a good way for us to get probiotics through our diet, is with these fermented foods. But if we don't get enough, or we're deficient, or we have some type of intestinal issue going on where we need more of the probiotics, or if we're taking an antibiotic or some other type of medication that destroys our good bacteria, or if we're under heavy stress, I'll talk about in a minute, then we're destroying good bacteria with those things. You may have to have additional, more than what you can get in your diet. But I highly recommend that you make probiotics part of your regular diet and keep those good bacteria built up in your system to protect you and give you that stronger immune system that you need. Now, I'm going to talk about a few things here unrelated to nutrition that are important for our immune system as well, and to keep that immune system strong and healthy. Cellular restoration is one of those. Sleep. We got to have sleep. And I've experienced this in my life many times, where I have had periods of time where I didn't get good sleep. Something was going on. I had long hours of work or stress or whatever was going on, and almost every time I would get some kind of cold or infection. We got to have sleep. Our bodies have to restore at night. Cellular restoration is extremely important for a healthy immune system. And not just sleep at night, not just that kind of rest, but taking rest periods as well. Through the day, a rest period at the end of the week, giving our bodies time to restore and rebuild and keep them stronger and healthy. So, cellular restoration, extremely important. Stress in the immune system. I mentioned stress a moment ago. You want to know something that will directly affect your immune system in a detrimental way, and that's stress. You know, we all have stress in our lives today. And it's something that, you know, we live in a stressful world. And I tell people in my practice and when I'm giving talks like this, and particularly about stress, and there's a presentation I do on stress quite often. But I tell people, if you want to manage stress better in your life, one of the best things you can do is click the off button, or click the channel button and change the news. Don't watch the news. One of the most stressful things is to watch the news, because that's all you hear is bad news, pretty much. And you see the craziness going on out there in the world. Stressful. But if you want to manage stress better, think about that. But managing stress in our lives is extremely important for our immune system. The hormones produced by the adrenal glands when we're under major stress can directly affect our immune system. Cortisol is that primary hormone. And cortisol weakens our immune system if we're getting high levels of it over a period of time. Small amounts of cortisol, good for us. But when we're under stress, and we're not managing it well, you get high levels of cortisol, you're weakening your immune system. So, important point there, work on stress management. If you're not doing it already, I highly recommend you make that part of your everyday life and routine, is that you work on doing stress relieving techniques and stress management techniques. Yoga, stretching, walking, praying, reading, meditating, all of those things to help manage the stress in your life. You do one deep breathing exercises is one of my favorite. Stopping and taking deep breaths, just relaxing, managing that stress. Extremely important. Healthy immune system, your life depends on it. My life depends on it. I want to share a brief story with you in closing about this thing. A healthy immune system, your life depends on it. A few weeks ago, my mother-in-law passed away. And she was 80 years old. Lived a wonderful life. Was healthy all of her life. Up until a year ago. It's been almost a year this month that she was diagnosed with brain cancer. Glioblastoma. And, my wife and I and the other family were saying, how can this happen? It just puzzled us. She was having headaches, went to the doctor, he did some tests, found the tumor, glioblastoma. We didn't understand it. How could this happen to her? She lived on a farm all her life, pretty much. Had her own garden, grew her own vegetables and fruits, took care of herself. How did it happen? We don't know. Nobody knew. I, being the curious person that I am, said, I want to know how this could be happening to her with her as healthy as she is. Yeah, a few months, or a few weeks before she got this diagnosis, she was riding on the back of a camel at the Noah's Ark exhibit in Kentucky. Healthy woman. So what happened? I started doing some research, and I think this will be very interesting to y'all. Trying to find out. So in my research, I'm Googling, I'm looking up all these research articles on glioblastoma. And I run across something showing a connection between glioblastoma and cytomegaloviruses, CMV. It's a virus, a common virus that people usually after 40 get. There's another one called Epstein-Barr virus that y'all are probably familiar with that more younger people usually get. And it just so happened that a few years ago she had CMV. So I started looking, what's this connection about here? Doing some research. And I was finding articles where they were making this connection between CMV and glioblastoma. And actually found where they were doing an experimental treatment for people with glioblastoma. Lo and behold, they had invented a vaccine. That's the answer, right? Let's get a new vaccine. Let's get a vaccine for this, a vaccine for that. They invented a vaccine to fight this CMV that was causing the glioblastoma. So on a doctor visit to her doctor, we were visiting the neurosurgeon with all the different options that were available to her for treatment. And they gave her a prognosis of 3 to 4 months, by the way. But she lived 11 months. But in this visit with the doctor, which was at the University of Alabama Research Hospital in Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm sitting there and we're talking with this doctor, and I said, I'm going to ask him about this, if he knows anything about this research. So I asked him, and he said, interesting, you should ask. He said, I was on one of the research teams that researched that. I've been part of that research. And he said, it's very promising research. But sadly, it's all experimental right now. There's nothing that's come out of the research that's available for treatment right now. And but he says, yes, there's some promising research there showing that connection. So when I say your life depends on it, She got the virus because she had a period of time in her life where her immune system got really weak. It's important that we keep our immune system strong and healthy every day. She, as healthy as she was, I have no doubt, without that virus, without that glioblastoma, she would probably live to be 100 years old. That's my goal. I want to get there. I don't know what your goal is, but I also know this, that whatever number of years I get, I want them to be good quality years. I tell people all the time, I want to live to be 100, but I want to know that I did. Yeah, Dr. Chris last night talking about Alzheimer's and the aluminum. So I'm going to start drinking that mineral water every day. You can count on that. Because I watched my grandfather die several years ago of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So I wished I'd have known about the mineral water then. Could have helped him, maybe, gave him longer and more quality life. But it's the quality that's more important, not just the quantity. So keeping our immune system strong and healthy is vital for our life. We have to do that. And it's something we need to give more attention to and pay closer attention to and work harder to do. You hold the key. We all hold that key. When you came in this evening, you should have gotten the key. If you didn't get one before you leave. Take a hold of your key and realize that today it's you that holds the key. All these things that I've shown you today, you can do. You can do. And you can change your life and make your life better in the coming years with a stronger and healthy immune system. It's something that so many people don't give enough attention to. And I recommend today that you do. That you give more attention to that. And if you haven't been doing that, then you can start today. Start today. Don't wait another day. Take care of yourself. That's one of the reasons why I wrote this book, and I'll be doing a book signing out here after the session, How to Live Until You Die, the 7 Keys to Living Happy, Healthy, and Whole. And I talk about the nutrition in there, and I talk about the vitamins and the things I've been talking about today. But as I say here, it doesn't matter what your story was, what your story is, you can start a new story today. You're still here. You've got a chance. You've got time. Make the most of it. Because my mother-in-law, her time was shortened. But she made the most out of those 11 months. And I'm thankful for that. So I encourage you, take your key and get to work on protecting your immune system and strengthening your immune system. Thank you all so much.
I have a question, or 2 questions. One, I've gotten a vitamin D test, but usually they test for D25, and that means you're looking at D2 plus D3, I guess. But the supplement needs to be D3. But a lot of times the doctors will just say D25 test. Yeah. And then they'll look at the aggregate. So and then you get a supplement for D2, you're actually not getting the right vitamin. Right. Right. Yeah. There's different types of vitamin D tests. You got the D2, the D3. The D3 is what you want to have checked. The D3 is primarily what I was talking about here. And those levels that I was talking about, the optimal, the 30 to 100, that's the vitamin D3. And that's what's most plentiful, that you can get. And with the supplements, they're vitamin D3 supplements. And that's generally what's checked is the vitamin D3. Yeah. And so that's that's something that I'm glad you brought that out, because when you do go request a test for vitamin D, you should ask for the D3. And let me tell you something too about that. Is that when you go and ask your doctor to check your vitamin D, they may look at you and say, well, you don't need your vitamin D checked. And I don't know if anybody that's ever happened to anybody, but it happened to my wife back there a few months ago. She was going for her yearly checkup, and I said, ask the doctor when you go to check your vitamin D level. Well, when she asked for that, they said, why?
why do you want your vitamin D level checked? You don't need your vitamin D level checked. And she said, yes, I do. I want my vitamin D. She had to argue with them. And you may have to do that too. And they say, well, most insurances don't cover it. Well, it don't matter. You need to have it checked. It doesn't cost very much anyway. It's only a few dollars for a vitamin D level check. So, yeah, get the vitamin D level 3, get the D3 checked, and make sure that it's in that optimal range. But if they want to argue with you, you keep arguing and say, yes, I want it checked. I'm going to have it checked.
And thank you. The second question is, you said you were a pharmacist before.
Yeah.
What made you change your career path to going in this direction?
Oh, I love it. That's a good question. My own health issues is what changed mine. I was suffering from major stress, and well, the stress was the root cause of my suffering. Let me put it that way. I had major digestive issues, and I was taking all kinds of medication. Being a pharmacist, I'd go to the doctor, they'd prescribe me these drugs, and I was taking these drugs. I was drinking a couple of bottles of antacid every day, trying to relieve the gastritis and the severe digestive issues I was dealing with. It was not helping much, giving me a little bit of temporary relief. So I started looking for other answers, and I found the cure in a book I picked up on natural medicine one day. In pharmacy school, I was taught the history of natural medicine, not the application of it. So when I learned these things in the book, and this book just happened to have a whole chapter on digestive issues. And so I started doing the things that this doctor who wrote this book recommended. It fixed the problem. I was cured. And that set me on a path to start learning more and more about natural products and natural things. So I just kept learning. I started looking for courses and finding courses that would help me and teach me these things that I was not taught in pharmacy school. And you know, most doctors are not taught anything about natural medicine either, or not taught anything about nutrition. I had no nutrition classes in pharmacy school. And they tell me that in a lot of medical schools, they get a few hours of nutrition teaching, and that's it. That's changing, thankfully, and we're seeing more progression in the area of pharmacy schools and medical schools in the area of natural medicine. Matter of fact, the pharmacy school I went to at Ole Miss now has a huge research center for natural products, and they're doing all kinds of research there in the area of natural products. There's supplement companies that send their products there to be researched. And so, yeah, there's some great progress coming there, but that's how I got into it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. As a nutritional therapy practitioner myself, thank you. Your talk completely resonated with me. I have a question for you regarding vitamin K.
Yes.
That's injected into babies within minutes, hours, days. Mm-hmm. And I want to know what your opinion is on the synthetic vitamin K injection versus an oral form, perhaps drops, or even supplementing the mother before birth. So could you speak to that?
Yeah. Yeah. In my opinion, I think it would be best the latter, for the mom. Because so much is crossed through the placenta, nutrient-wise, with the mom, and so I absolutely agree with that. And one of the things there too is the probiotics we talked about, and the baby's getting the probiotics, and the probiotics are and those good bacteria are essential for assimilation of certain nutrients in our body, like the vitamin K, some of the B vitamins that it's important for. And so that mom getting healthy doses and making sure that she's getting adequate nutrition with the vitamin K and other nutrients as well is extremely important. In my opinion, that would be the best way to go with that. Absolutely. Of course, if you got to have something else, if the mom's not doing it, you want to try to get as natural as you can. Or as close to food source, as possible to get optimal benefit. And that's the thing with the food source. You're going to get optimal benefit with the food source as opposed to the synthetics. And because the body really doesn't recognize the synthetic very well. And a lot of it, like I said, just passes right through. But some things, that's the only way you can get them a lot of times. Okay? All right.
All right. Liposomal vitamin C. You mentioned C.
Yes.
And just recently, in the last year or two, you're seeing these liposomal formulas coming out. And I'm just curious what your take is on a liposomal C.
Yeah. There are a lot of nutrients that are in that you can get now in the liposomal base where they're supposed to enhance absorption and utilization of those nutrients. And yeah, it's something I haven't done a lot of research in yet, but I've seen those products out there, and I've looked at them briefly. But yeah, from what I've seen, what I know about, a little bit I know about them right now, I would say that they can provide greater benefit and better utilization of the nutrients in that liposomal form. With the delivery, it's more of a, what we call it in the medical profession, the drug delivery system. You know, all medications are bound with something to help improve the delivery of that medication into the bloodstream and into the body. That's the science behind the liposomal ingredients. Is they're bound with these lipids to help get them into the body and doing what they need to do and get them to the place where they need to go to provide the benefit they're there to provide. So, yeah. All right. I'll be doing the book signing out here. If anybody would like to come out, I'd be happy to answer more questions. Our time is up. And thank you all so much for being here today.